Chapter 1: A Haunting Past. The city of New York sprawled beneath a canvas of rain-soaked clouds, its skyline a silhouette of dreams and despair. Detective Sarah Mitchell stood at the edge of a bustling street, her gaze fixed upon the shimmering lights that adorned the concrete jungle. For most, this city held the allure of endless possibilities, but for Sarah, it was a place etched with memories of loss and injustice. She leaned against the cold steel railing of a subway entrance, her trench coat billowing gently in the brisk evening wind. Beneath the flickering glow of a nearby street lamp, her fedora cast a shadow over her steely eyes, which harbored a relentless determination that had driven her for years. Raindrops danced on the brim of her hat, creating a hypnotic rhythm that echoed the tumultuous beat of her heart. Each droplet seemed to whisper a tale of unfulfilled promises, of a past that refused to be buried. Sarah's lithe fingers absently traced the edges of a worn photograph clutched in her hand. It was a faded memory, a sepia-toned snapshot of her brother, David. He stood there, frozen in time, his laughter captured in a fleeting moment of joy. It had been 5 long years since she'd seen him smile, heard his voice, and held him close. But the photograph held another presence, a shadow that loomed in the background, an enigmatic figure in the periphery of her brother's happiness. Victor Drexler, the name echoed in Sarah's thoughts, a name that held both power and secrets. Victor Drexler, a wealthy and influential businessman, was a man of contradictions. To the world, he was a philanthropic magnate, known for his extravagant charity events and his contributions to the city's social causes. But Sarah knew better. She had stumbled upon the first clue by pure chance, a serendipitous discovery within the labyrinthine archives of the police department. A dusty file, forgotten by all but fate, had yielded the elusive link she had long sought. And there, in the background of a charity gala's photograph, stood David, her brother, and beside him, Victor Drexler. The man's smile in the photograph was that of a masterful actor, concealing a multitude of sins beneath its veneer. It was a smile that had haunted Sarah's dreams for years, a smile that hinted at a dark truth she was determined to unearth. As the rain fell in a relentless cascade, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the city's pulse reverberate through her bones. The weight of her past bore down upon her shoulders, a burden she had carried for far too long. The city's inhabitants rushed past her, oblivious to the storm that raged within her soul. They saw a detective, a woman of purpose, but they couldn't fathom the depth of her obsession, the unyielding pursuit of justice that consumed her. David's unsolved murder had become an unsanctioned quest, a journey through the shadows of deception, and Victor Drexler was the elusive specter she chased. The photograph, wrinkled and aged, was the key that had unlocked a Pandora's box of secrets. With a determined flick of her wrist, Sarah slipped the photograph back into her coat pocket. The rain had soaked through her coat, but she welcomed the chill. It was a reminder of the cold resolve that fueled her, the unrelenting fire that refused to be extinguished. As the city's neon lights flickered to life, casting an ethereal glow upon the wet pavement, Sarah Mitchell stepped away from the subway entrance and into the heart of the metropolis. She was a detective on a mission, a seeker of truth in a city where shadows concealed the darkest of secrets. The rain continued to fall, washing away the sins of the city, but for Detective Sarah Mitchell, there would be no respite until justice was served, until the shadows that haunted her past were banished into the depths from which they had emerged. Chapter 2: The Enigma of Victor Drexler. New York City, a realm where dreams and nightmares intermingled, was a place of intrigue and mystery. Detective Sarah Mitchell navigated its labyrinthine streets with a sense of purpose that bordered on obsession. The rain, a constant companion, had turned the city's hustle and bustle into a blurry, ethereal dance. Tonight, Sarah stood in the heart of Manhattan, amidst the dazzling lights of a charity gala. The grandeur of the event was a stark contrast to the gritty reality she often found herself in. She had finagled an invitation to the affair, blending seamlessly into a sea of elegantly dressed socialites and influential figures. Sarah moved through the crowd, her every step deliberate and measured. Her keen eyes scanned the faces, searching for the one she had come to find, the enigmatic Victor Drexler. He was a chameleon, effortlessly adapting to his surroundings, concealing his true nature beneath a veneer of charm and sophistication. The ballroom was a symphony of opulence, adorned with crystal chandeliers that cast a warm, golden glow upon the revelers. Champagne glasses clinked, laughter and soft music filled the air, but Sarah's focus remained unwavering. Victor Drexler was a man of contradictions, a riddle wrapped in silk and tailored suits. To the world, he was a revered philanthropist, known for his generous contributions to various causes, his image perpetuated by the glossy pages of society magazines. But Sarah knew that beneath the smiles and handshakes lay a darkness that begged to be exposed. As Sarah discreetly observed the crowd, her heart quickened when she spotted him. Drexler, the man of the hour, was engaged in a conversation with a group of wealthy patrons, his charisma drawing them in like moths to a flame. His salt and pepper hair and impeccably groomed beard only added to his air of distinction. Sarah adjusted her fedora, ensuring it concealed her features in the shadows. She had to remain inconspicuous, a detective hiding in plain sight, observing her prey from the periphery. The guests fawned over Drexler, their adoration genuine, or so it appeared. He was a man who commanded respect, his charisma a weapon that had rendered even the most astute skeptics powerless. The illusion was flawless, and Sarah marveled at his ability to maintain it. Her fingers traced the outline of the photograph she had discovered earlier, a visual link between her brother and Drexler. It was a fragile thread that she hoped to strengthen into a web of incrimination. As the night wore on, Sarah continued to watch, her instincts on high alert. Drexler moved with grace, his charm a potent elixir that intoxicated those in his presence. But Sarah knew better than to be swayed by his facade. The minutes turned into hours, and the gala unfolded around her, a tapestry of wealth and extravagance. She observed Drexler's every gesture, his every interaction, searching for a crack in the mask he wore. She was determined to uncover the truth, to expose the man who had hidden in plain sight for too long. The rain, relentless in its persistence, continued to fall outside the grand ballroom. Inside, amidst the glittering chandeliers and the echo of laughter, Sarah Mitchell stood as a silent sentinel, ready to unravel the enigma of Victor Drexler, no matter where the path may lead. Chapter 3: Uncovering the Shadows. The gala had cast its spell, ensnaring the city's elite in an opulent dance of indulgence and extravagance. As the night waned on, Detective Sarah Mitchell remained hidden in plain sight, her eyes locked onto the enigmatic figure of Victor Drexler. The rain, which had been a relentless accomplice throughout her investigation, showed no signs of abating. It painted intricate patterns on the tall windows that surrounded the ballroom, a silent witness to the secrets concealed within. Victor Drexler moved through the crowd with an effortless grace that belied his true nature. He exchanged pleasantries, his laughter a harmonious melody that enchanted those who surrounded him. His charisma was like a net, ensnaring the unsuspecting and weaving an illusion that masked his darker pursuits. Sarah knew that beneath the immaculate exterior lay a heart of darkness, a man who had mastered the art of deception. She had glimpsed the photograph, the damning evidence that linked Drexler to her brother, David. It was a fragile thread, but Sarah was determined to strengthen it into an unbreakable bond. As the night wore on, the gala reached its zenith. The guests reveled in the extravagance, their laughter and clinking glasses, creating a cacophony of celebration. It was a stark contrast to the grim reality Sarah had uncovered, the human trafficking ring that Drexler had carefully concealed. The victims of his malevolent empire remained faceless and voiceless, trapped in a web of despair. They were the ones who haunted Sarah's dreams, the ones she had sworn to rescue from the shadows. With a practiced smile, Drexler excused himself from the crowd, leaving behind a trail of admirers. Sarah seized the opportunity, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. She followed him discreetly, keeping a safe distance as he made his way through a labyrinth of corridors. The sound of her footsteps echoed in the empty hallway, a symphony of determination that resonated within her. She knew she was getting closer, inching toward the heart of the darkness that had eluded her for so long. Drexler entered a private study, the door closing behind him with a soft click. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her hand resting on the doorknob. The decision to follow him into the sanctum of his secrets was a pivotal one, a step further into the abyss. With a deep breath, she turned the knob and slipped inside. The room was bathed in a dim, amber light, its walls adorned with rare artworks and shelves filled with leather-bound books. It was a sanctuary of wealth and privilege, a stark contrast to the world outside. Drexler stood by a grand mahogany desk, his back to the door. He seemed lost in thought, his fingers gently caressing the frame of a photograph, a portrait of a family, a wife and 2 children, all smiling in blissful ignorance of the darkness that clung to their patriarch. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she observed Drexler's contemplative expression. It was a moment of vulnerability, a crack in the facade. She knew that to expose him, she had to exploit this weakness. Stepping forward, she cleared her throat, her voice steady and unwavering. "Impressive collection, Mr. Drexler." Drexler turned, his expression a mask of composed surprise. His eyes, like shards of obsidian, locked onto Sarah's. "You shouldn't be here," he replied, his voice measured but laced with an underlying tension. Sarah knew she had ventured into the lion's den, but she would not be deterred. She had come too far to turn back now. "I couldn't resist the allure of your private sanctuary," she said, her tone veiled with a hint of mockery. "It's a shame, really, that such a beautiful world hides so many secrets." Drexler's gaze remained fixed on her, his mask of composure slipping ever so slightly. "What are you insinuating, detective?" Sarah took a step closer, the shadows of the room dancing upon her trench coat. "I'm insinuating that you're not the philanthropic figure you pretend to be," she declared, her voice low and filled with conviction. "I believe you have knowledge about my brother's murder, and I intend to uncover the truth." The room seemed to close in around them, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down upon their shoulders. Detective Sarah Mitchell had infiltrated the heart of the darkness, and Victor Drexler was no longer hidden behind a facade of charm and charisma. In the dimly lit study, 2 adversaries stood on the precipice of revelation, their destinies intertwined in a web of secrets and lies. The shadows that had concealed the truth were beginning to unravel, and the echoes of their confrontation reverberated in the stillness of the night. Chapter 4: Closer to the Truth. The room felt charged with tension as Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler faced each other in the dimly lit study. The amber glow cast eerie shadows on the opulent surroundings, where wealth and privilege met the darkness of secrets concealed. Sarah's heart raced beneath her trench coat, her senses heightened. She had ventured into the lion's den, confronting the enigmatic figure she had pursued relentlessly. Drexler, his composure momentarily shattered, stood before her like a cornered predator. Drexler's voice was smooth and measured, though a flicker of unease danced in his eyes. "You have a vivid imagination, detective," he replied, his words dripping with a veneer of charm. "Accusations without evidence are dangerous." Sarah's gaze remained unwavering as she took another step closer, narrowing the gap between them. "Evidence has a way of surfacing, Mr. Drexler," she retorted. "And I intend to uncover every hidden truth, no matter where it leads." The room seemed to shrink around them, the air thick with unspoken secrets. It was a high-stakes game, and Sarah knew that her every move was being watched and analyzed. But she had become a woman possessed, driven by a relentless pursuit of justice. Drexler, ever the master manipulator, assessed the situation with calculated precision. He moved behind his grand mahogany desk, his fingers tracing the polished surface as if seeking refuge. "Detective, you tread on dangerous ground," he cautioned, his tone now laced with a hint of warning. "Some stones are best left unturned." Sarah refused to be intimidated. She had seen too much, witnessed the victims of Drexler's malevolent empire, to be deterred by empty threats. "I've faced far worse than threats, Mr. Drexler," she replied with unwavering resolve. "And I've come too far to back down now." The standoff continued, a battle of wills and words, each move a carefully calculated step toward the truth. Sarah had infiltrated the heart of darkness, but Drexler remained an enigma, his web of deception intricate and formidable. As the seconds ticked by, Drexler's facade began to reassemble itself. The tension in the room ebbed, replaced once more by his practiced charm. "Perhaps we've reached an impasse, detective," he said, his smile returning. "I trust you'll find the door." Sarah understood the implicit dismissal, but she refused to retreat. She knew that she had stirred the hornet's nest, and Drexler's guard was now raised. She nodded, her expression a mask of determination. "Rest assured, Mr. Drexler," she said, her voice a promise that hung in the air, "this isn't over. I will find the evidence, and I will bring you to justice." With that, she turned on her heel, leaving Drexler behind in his gilded cage. The shadows of the room seemed to whisper their secrets as she departed, and the weight of the unspoken truths lingered in the air. Back in the bustling streets of New York City, the rain continued to fall, washing away the sins of the city. But for Detective Sarah Mitchell, the storm within her raged unabated. She had ventured deeper into the abyss, one step closer to unraveling the shadows that concealed the truth. The game had intensified, and the stakes had never been higher. As the city's neon lights flickered in the distance, Sarah knew that her relentless pursuit of justice had brought her to the precipice of revelation, where the secrets of Victor Drexler's empire teetered on the brink of exposure. Chapter 5: The Cat-and-Mouse Game. New York City's relentless rain showed no mercy, a symphony of unyielding determination that echoed Detective Sarah Mitchell's resolve. As she left Victor Drexler's lavish sanctuary, the storm continued to wash the city's sins into the gutters, but it couldn't cleanse the shadows that clung to her. The confrontation with Drexler had been a pivotal moment, one that had brought her closer to the heart of the darkness she sought to expose. The city's neon lights flickered in the distance, casting erratic reflections on the slick pavement as Sarah stepped back into the night. Her footsteps echoed through the city's bustling streets, but she was no longer the lone wolf she had once been. The pursuit of justice had pushed her away from friends and colleagues, but she had also garnered unexpected allies, those who believed in her unwavering determination to unveil the truth. As Sarah continued her relentless investigation, she moved through the labyrinthine corridors of the city's underworld. It was a world where shadows concealed a multitude of sins, where human lives were bought and sold like commodities. The victims of Drexler's malevolent empire remained faceless, their cries unheard in the city that never slept. It was a darkness that Sarah was determined to expose, no matter the cost. She had seen their faces, heard their stories, and they haunted her dreams. The days turned into weeks as Sarah followed the twisting trail of evidence, her determination intensifying with each revelation. She knew that Drexler's criminal empire was on the brink of unraveling, but the closer she got, the more dangerous the game became. The city had become a battleground, with Sarah and Drexler engaged in a thrilling cat-and-mouse chase. Narrow escapes and tense confrontations became the order of the day. Drexler, always one step ahead, seemed to anticipate her every move. The rain, a constant companion, intensified the sense of urgency. It battered the city's streets, turning them into slick, treacherous terrain. But Sarah Mitchell was undeterred. She had become a hunter, relentless in her pursuit of the truth. Each lead, each piece of evidence, brought her closer to the heart of Drexler's empire. The victims' stories, once silenced, now formed a chorus of desperation that fueled her determination. She knew that the shadows that concealed the truth were beginning to fray. As the storm raged on, Sarah's pursuit reached a fevered pitch. The stakes had never been higher, and the danger was palpable. Drexler, desperate to protect his empire, became increasingly ruthless, his actions growing more unpredictable. The city's neon lights, once symbols of allure and promise, now cast a stark contrast to the darkness that Sarah had uncovered. She was a detective on a mission, and nothing would deter her from exposing the truth, no matter how deep the shadows ran. In the relentless rain, amidst the cacophony of the city's turmoil, Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler continued their high-stakes game of cat and mouse. The pursuit of justice had become a visceral battle, and the outcome remained uncertain as they danced on the precipice of revelation. Chapter 6: The Showdown Looms. The relentless rain that had become the backdrop to Detective Sarah Mitchell's pursuit of justice showed no signs of abating. It painted the streets of New York City with a glistening sheen, transforming them into treacherous pathways where shadows clung like silent observers. As Sarah delved deeper into the abyss, the lines between justice and vengeance blurred. The city, with its unforgiving streets and ever-present shadows, had become her labyrinth. She had become a solitary figure, a lone wolf, pursuing a beast hidden among the wolves of Wall Street. Victor Drexler, the enigmatic mastermind behind a human trafficking empire, was no longer a distant figure in the shadows. Their relentless game of cat and mouse had escalated to a dangerous climax, a confrontation that loomed like an impending storm. Narrow escapes and tense confrontations had become a recurring theme in Sarah's relentless pursuit. Drexler, always one step ahead, seemed to anticipate her every move. He had become a master of evasion, his criminal empire hanging in the balance. The rain, an unwavering accomplice, continued to fall as Sarah traversed the city's unforgiving streets. Her trench coat, a shield against the elements, clung to her frame, drenched by the relentless downpour. But she paid no heed to the discomfort, her focus remained unswerving. In the heart of an abandoned warehouse, shrouded in darkness, the stage was set for the ultimate showdown. It was a place where echoes of forgotten crimes reverberated in the shadows, a sinister theater where Sarah and Drexler would confront their destinies. The air inside the warehouse crackled with tension as Sarah stepped cautiously into the cavernous space. Water dripped from the rusted beams overhead, creating a dissonant melody that resonated with her racing heart. She knew that this confrontation would be more than a battle of bullets and brawn, it would be a psychological duel, where each word and gesture carried weight. Sarah's senses were on high alert as she scanned the dimly lit expanse, her eyes adjusting to the darkness. She could hear the faint rustle of fabric, the soft whisper of a footstep, but Drexler remained concealed, a phantom lurking in the shadows. The rain outside intensified, its rhythm a discordant symphony that mirrored the tumultuous emotions within the warehouse. Sarah's breath hung in the cold air, visible in the dim light of a single flickering bulb. And then, in the distance, she heard it, the soft, deliberate sound of footsteps approaching. Her heart quickened, her fingers tightening around the grip of her weapon. Drexler emerged from the shadows, his silhouette framed by the eerie glow of the flickering bulb. He moved with a graceful confidence, his eyes fixed on Sarah. His salt and pepper hair and impeccably tailored suit were a stark contrast to the dilapidated surroundings. The showdown had begun, a battle of wits and wills between two adversaries locked in a deadly dance. The rain outside continued to fall, a relentless drumbeat to the impending confrontation. In the heart of the abandoned warehouse, Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler stood facing each other, their destinies entwined in a web of shadows and secrets. The air crackled with tension as they prepared to unveil their final gambits, a confrontation that would define the outcome of their relentless pursuit of justice and power. Chapter 7: Unraveling the Shadows. Inside the dimly lit warehouse, the rain-soaked world outside felt a million miles away. Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler stood like ancient rivals, their gazes locked in a battle of wills. The flickering light overhead cast elongated shadows that danced around them, a reflection of the dark secrets that had brought them to this moment. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing the weight of her determination. She had come too far, seen too much, to falter now. Drexler, ever the master manipulator, regarded her with a calculating glint in his obsidian eyes. The room felt charged with tension, the air thick with anticipation. It was a battle that had been a long time coming, a showdown between the relentless detective and the enigmatic criminal. Each step had led them to this moment, a precipice where the shadows would finally be unveiled. Drexler, his voice a measured baritone, broke the silence. "Detective Mitchell, you've certainly proven to be persistent," he remarked, a hint of admiration in his tone. "But what do you hope to achieve here?" Sarah's gaze remained unwavering, her voice steady. "Justice, Mr. Drexler," she replied with unwavering conviction. "For the victims of your empire, for my brother, and for all those who have suffered at your hands." Drexler's lips curled into a wry smile, his charm ever present even in this sinister setting. "Ah, Detective, your sense of righteousness is admirable," he mused. "But do you truly believe you can bring down a man of my influence?" Sarah's response was swift and resolute. "Influence can crumble, Mr. Drexler, and empires can fall. It's only a matter of time." The warehouse seemed to hold its breath as the two adversaries exchanged words, their confrontation a battle of ideals and determination. Outside, the relentless rain continued to pour, as if nature itself bore witness to their clash. Drexler took a step closer, the shadows deepening around him. "You've underestimated the lengths I'll go to protect what's mine," he warned, his eyes narrowing. "This isn't a game, Detective." Sarah knew the truth of his words. She had seen the depths of his malevolent empire, the lives he had destroyed in pursuit of power and wealth. But she refused to back down. "I've seen the victims of your cruelty, Mr. Drexler," she countered. "Their voices will not be silenced any longer." In the dim light of the warehouse, the stage was set for a battle that would define their destinies. The rain outside continued to fall, a relentless symphony of nature's fury. Inside, amidst the shadows and secrets, Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler prepared to unveil the final gambits that would determine the outcome of their relentless pursuit. The showdown had reached its zenith, and the revelations that lay ahead would shatter the illusions that had concealed the truth for far too long. The shadows, once impenetrable, were beginning to unravel, and the storm that had raged within both detective and criminal was about to reach its climax. Chapter 8: Unmasking the Darkness. In the heart of the dimly lit warehouse, Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler faced each other with a palpable tension that seemed to vibrate in the air. The flickering overhead light created eerie shadows that danced around them, a visual representation of the secrets that had brought them to this fateful confrontation. Sarah's determination burned like a relentless fire within her. She had embarked on a journey that had taken her through the darkest corners of the city, a journey driven by a relentless pursuit of justice for the victims of Drexler's malevolent empire. Drexler, the epitome of charm and composure, regarded her with a calculating gaze. His voice, like a velvet trap, drew her further into the web of intrigue. "Detective Mitchell," he began, his tone measured, "you've shown remarkable tenacity, but do you truly believe you can dismantle what I built?" Sarah's eyes bore into his, her resolve unwavering. "I've seen the suffering you've caused, Mr. Drexler," she replied with steely determination. "And I'll do whatever it takes to bring you to justice." A faint, knowing smile played at the corners of Drexler's lips, a silent acknowledgement of the game they were playing. "Justice is a subjective concept, detective," he mused. "What you see as a crime others might view as necessity." Sarah refused to be swayed by his rhetoric. "There's no justification for the pain you've inflicted on others," she asserted. "Your empire of shadows will crumble, and the truth will prevail." As their verbal duel continued, the room seemed to shrink around them, the weight of their confrontation growing heavier with each passing moment. Outside, the rain showed no mercy, its relentless assault on the world beyond serving as a backdrop to the battle within. Drexler took a step closer, his eyes never leaving Sarah's. "You underestimate the lengths I'll go to protect what's mine," he warned, his voice a low, ominous rumble. Sarah met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "Your empire is built on suffering and lies," she countered. "It's time for the world to see the truth." The words hung in the air, a declaration of war between the relentless detective and the enigmatic criminal. The rain outside continued to fall, as if the heavens themselves bore witness to the final act in a drama that had unfolded in the shadows for far too long. In the dimly lit warehouse, Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler stood on the precipice of revelation. The unmasking of the darkness that had concealed the truth was imminent, and the storm that had raged within them both was about to reach its tumultuous climax. The showdown had reached its zenith, and the revelations that lay ahead would shatter the illusions that had concealed the truth for far too long. The battle of wills and words had become a battle for the very soul of the city, and the outcome remained uncertain as they stood on the threshold of destiny. Chapter 9: The Unveiling. Inside the dimly lit warehouse, the air was charged with anticipation. Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler, two opposing forces, stood at the epicenter of a battle that had been brewing in the shadows for far too long. The flickering overhead light cast elongated shadows that seemed to stretch and strain under the weight of their confrontation. Sarah's determination blazed like an unquenchable fire, fueled by the injustice she had witnessed and the pursuit of truth. Drexler, the embodiment of composure, regarded her with a calculating gaze, his veneer of charm a stark contrast to the darkness that lay beneath. As the rain continued to pour outside, their verbal sparring continued within the confines of the warehouse. Sarah's voice remained unwavering as she met Drexler's gaze. "There's no escaping the consequences of your actions, Mr. Drexler," she asserted, her conviction resolute. Drexler, ever the master manipulator, allowed a hint of exasperation to creep into his demeanor. "You cling to your idealistic notions of justice, detective," he replied, his tone tinged with mild amusement. "But in the real world, power is what prevails." Sarah refused to be swayed by his words, knowing that the battle for truth was never straightforward. "Power without morality is nothing but tyranny," she retorted. "Your empire of shadows will crumble, and you will answer for the lives you've destroyed." The room seemed to close in around them, the shadows deepening with each exchange. It was a battle of ideals, of conviction, and of unwavering determination. Outside, the rain painted a somber backdrop, its relentless rhythm punctuating their words. Drexler took a step closer, the darkness of the warehouse enveloping him. "You underestimate the depths I'm willing to go to protect my empire," he warned, his voice low and foreboding. Sarah met his gaze with steely resolve. "I've seen the victims of your cruelty," she declared, her voice a fierce proclamation. "Their stories will be heard, and your reign of darkness will come to an end." Their confrontation had reached a critical juncture, a moment where the unmasking of the darkness that had concealed the truth was imminent. The rain outside continued to fall, as if nature itself held its breath, awaiting the outcome of this epic struggle. In the dimly lit warehouse, the battle between Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler had become a clash of ideologies, a test of wills. The revelations that lay ahead would shatter the illusions that had concealed the truth for too long, and the storm within both detective and criminal was about to reach its tumultuous zenith. The showdown had become a crucible of fate, where the destinies of those who had suffered in the shadows hung in the balance. The final act in this high-stakes drama was about to unfold, and the outcome remained uncertain as the two adversaries stood on the precipice of revelation. Chapter 10: Truth and Consequences. In the dimly lit warehouse, Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler stood locked in a battle of wills, their eyes locked in a relentless duel. The air was thick with anticipation, and the flickering overhead light cast haunting shadows that seemed to dance to the rhythm of their confrontation. Sarah's determination burned brighter than ever, an unwavering beacon amidst the encroaching darkness. She had embarked on this perilous journey to bring down Drexler's malevolent empire, to seek justice for the voiceless victims who had suffered at his hands. Drexler, ever the master of composure, regarded her with an inscrutable gaze. His suave exterior was a stark contrast to the malevolence that lurked beneath. "Detective Mitchell," he began, his voice measured, "you've fought valiantly, but do you truly believe you can dismantle what I built?" Sarah's eyes bore into his, her resolve unbreakable. "I've seen the suffering you've caused," she replied with unwavering conviction. "Your reign of terror ends here, Mr. Drexler." A wry smile played at the corner of Drexler's lips, a calculated response to the escalating confrontation. "You persist in your idealistic notions of justice," he remarked, his tone tinged with a hint of amusement. "But in the end, power is what prevails." Sarah remained resolute, refusing to be swayed by his rhetoric. "Power without ethics is tyranny," she countered. "The truth will prevail, and the world will see the monster you truly are." As the warehouse seemed to close in around them, their battle of words intensified. It was a clash of ideals, of unwavering determination, and of the unyielding pursuit of justice. Outside, the relentless rain continued to fall, its relentless rhythm underscoring the gravity of their confrontation. Drexler took a step closer, his shadow stretching ominously. "You underestimate the depths to which I'll go to protect what's mine," he warned, his voice a low, chilling growl. Sarah met his gaze with unflinching resolve. "The victims of your cruelty deserve justice," she declared, her voice echoing with the weight of their suffering. "Their voices will be heard, and your empire of shadows will crumble." In the dimly lit warehouse, the confrontation between Detective Sarah Mitchell and Victor Drexler had reached its zenith. The unmasking of the darkness that had concealed the truth was imminent. The rain outside continued its relentless descent, as if nature itself bore witness to this epic struggle. The showdown had become a crucible of fate, where the destinies of those who had suffered in the shadows hung in the balance. The revelations that lay ahead would shatter the illusions that had concealed the truth for far too long, and the storm that had raged within both detective and criminal was about to reach its tumultuous conclusion. As they stood on the precipice of revelation, the world held its breath, awaiting the truth and the consequences that would follow. The battle of wills had led them to this moment, and the outcome would define the destinies of all involved.